All right, I think we're recording here. What is going on, Sales Dev Squad? Thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Sales Dev Squad podcast. We have a super special guest for you guys today. We'll be speaking to Vincent Matano, who is currently a account executive for the ABM-based company Demandbase. He's actually had the opportunity to meet Gary Vee, which we'll touch a little bit upon later this episode, but actually started off his career doing outside sales, door-to-door sales, and even as an SDR, and has quickly moved up in the ranks here. But thanks so much for joining us today, Vincent. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, Mateo, this is long in the works, so I'm happy to finally connect with you here.
Absolutely. And you also run your own podcast as well, right? Project Growth. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
I do, yeah. I started it back in college when I really didn't even know why I wanted to start the podcast. I just kind of knew, okay, I want to start something. So I literally just started emailing like local entrepreneurs that were near my college, and I ordered like the worst USB microphone possible off Amazon. It was just terrible. And people like wanted to respond to me, and like they wanted to agree to do the interview. I didn't have a podcast set up yet. I didn't have a name. I wasn't on any streaming services. So just the fact that people were agreeing to do this and take time out of their day, I was kind of like, wow, I could really do this. But when I originally started, it was kind of just selfishly, just to kind of have conversations with these people. I was young. I was just trying to get some advice, career advice, life advice from these people who were doing well, who I looked up to at some point. Um, and now it's kind of changed. I recently kind of went with a rebrand, and I really just want to focus on overall just self growth. I'm pretty passionate about that. Always trying to get better in different areas of my life, and I'm sure you are as well. Just looking at your content online and with this podcast. But I wanted to focus more on young people like us, right? Just kind of do the right things now to kind of help us out later on down the line, whether that's, you know, career advice or, personal development, whether that's, health and fitness, wellness, whatever it is. I want to have guests on that kind of share really good advice from those different areas of our life, so we can take that stuff and use it in our own.
Dude, I love it, man. Thanks for that
Yeah.
overview. What I really loved about your background as well, Vin, is just you mentioned in your LinkedIn that you actually started your sales career doing door-to-door sales, selling home internet and TV packages. Do you mind just sharing a little bit more about how that experience was, and I guess how that kind of prepared you to take on your first SGR role?
Yeah, so I would say, unlike most people, I really didn't. I knew that I wanted to get into sales. I know a lot of people are saying like, "Oh, I kind of stumbled into sales." I knew I wanted to get into sales at an early age. So in college, I was looking for internships, and it's pretty hard looking for internships when you have no experience. And one of the ones I was able to get was a door-to-door sales job selling Verizon FiOS home and internet packages, and it was so hard. Like, you're walking outside literally all day. I think my like activity quota was like 60 houses,
A day?
knocking on people's doors. They don't want to see you. You know what I mean? They're shutting the door in your face. They're not even letting you get your
Jeez.
pitch out. But it was a huge learning experience. Like, we role played every morning before we went out, and just, obviously it's a different sale. But I think the foundation of like, all right, just keep up with, you know, you're going to get no's obviously in sales. That's natural. And I think getting doors slammed in your face and going door to door is like the huge wake up call to introduce you to sales. Like, I haven't experienced nearly as bad as like just people just being rude and just shutting the door on you than ever, really. So, I always compare it to that. If I have a negative experience with somebody, in sales, it's going to happen. I always compare it back to that. Like, okay, I did door to door sales at one point. Like, this isn't that bad.
Hmm. Dude, yeah, that sounds super tough, man. Outside sales is no joke, especially selling something as general as TV and internet and stuff.
Yeah. It was tough.
But dude, walk us through after that, you obviously kind of stumbled into tech sales and you started off as an SDR for demand base and obviously averaged over 100% of like new business opportunities in pipeline each month, man. Like what was your key to success in that role?
Yeah, I definitely did stumble into tech sales. I didn't really know too much about it. But when I started at Demand Base, I would say in the industry of the SDRs, this is kind of when like cadences were like a hot topic. I remember when I got there, it was like, oh, what cadence have you built out? And kind of automating a lot of them within like an outreach or sales loft, which is often still popular. But I would say personalization really wasn't that popular at the time when I started. It was kind of like, let's build out these cadences and let them work. Um, And I always just thought of just, hey, let's slow down on the volume and just start personalizing a little bit, see where we can go. And I started experimenting with some things like using people's blogs if I found it, because we sell to marketers, so a lot of people have blogs. And I started seeing really quick success, and I started just doubling down on it. And luckily, my management team from Demandbase, they kind of encouraged it. I was a little under the standard activity quota, but I was doing a lot more quality outreach, and it was yielding a higher success rate than others on the team. So I think just trying to try new things and take my time more and personalize really, as an SDR, just led me to success in that role.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Could you like walk us through like what your mindset is as you're, researching what you're going to say or do to like, I guess one of your prospects when you're an SDR role? Like how do you get into their heads and what's your thought process there?
Yeah, I always looked for like three different things. Obviously, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is like a key tool. Like that's really where I spend all day. I don't really use too many other tools. But I would start there. I would identify who I'm trying to reach out to, obviously via the Boolean search, which if you use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you know how to do that. But I would look for three things. I would look for one, something personal, like a personal interest, whether that's something that they mentioned on their LinkedIn or maybe a blog like I mentioned or a podcast interview like this. Another thing I would often leverage is Twitter, which is often really underused, and I still use that to this day. And again, I don't really see any SDRs using Twitter, either taking info from someone's Twitter to use it in your outreach or actually tweeting somebody. Like I'll often tweet people. And that's the first area I'll look for. The second area I'll look for is anything about the company that the prospect works for. So any company news, whether that's like acquisition news, new product news, or awards I won, anything like that, just to create some relevance in your outreach. And then the last thing I'll look for is circling back to my CRM. Were they in any previous sales opportunities? Do I need to tailor my messaging around some of the things they already talked about, right? Because the worst thing you can do is you don't want the prospect to feel like you're starting from scratch, right? They don't want to go through the same conversation again and again. So if you can just reference that conversation that they had, 18 months ago, whatever it was, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable opening up to where they're at today. And those are the three things I always look for whenever I send an email. And it helps tremendously just by even getting them to open the email, to read it, and then to respond.
Dude, I love that, man. I love how you're thinking outside the box and really just getting down to the nitty gritty and just at the end of the day, just doing a little bit more research than the next person, man. I know that we kind of talked about this before we kind of aired here, but like being a creative prospector definitely yields returns. And for you especially, like just thinking outside the box actually opened up an opportunity for you to meet Gary V, which I think is awesome, man. Do you mind just for our audience here, just sharing like your experience, how just thinking outside the box led to this awesome opportunity?
Yeah, this is a fun story to tell. When I was working with my AE, we had this one account that was always on our top list, like every single week. They fit our ICP. They were showing a lot of intent signals. Like it was a really great account. And I was just busting my ass, like trying to get in front of them. And we really struggled just to even get a response from them. We tried everything. I was doing email, phone, social, LinkedIn messages. We really tried everything, and we weren't even getting anything from them. So I saw one of my prospects actually shared something. I think he shared something about Gary Vaynerchuk, or maybe he reposted the video of Gary Vaynerchuk. And I actually had Gary V's book in my bedroom, Jab, 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 Right Hook. So I figured I had nothing to lose. I already read the book. I didn't need it. So I just threw it in an envelope and shipped it to him. And he wound up getting back to me right away. And we set up a call. He came in for lunch, and my AE winded up closing the deal. And I was really excited about it. But what made it even better was about a week after kickoff, he emailed me and was like, "Hey, man, just want to thank you again for the book. Really excited about Demandbase. I actually have a ticket to Gary V's Empathy Wine event at the Ainsworth in New York City." He's like, "I can't make it. Would you want my ticket?" So I was like, "Yeah, of course." So I wound up taking his ticket, went by myself, and I actually met Gary, and we talked a little bit, and I told him about the scenario of how I got here, and he thought that was, so cool. And I met a bunch of other people. That was awesome. And to me, I just thought I like that story because it shows that we as SDRs, as salespeople, we often get, a negative connotation, right? Spamming or, whatever those negative connotations are, but we actually make positive impacts on people's lives. Like this guy had one ticket. He could have sent it to any of his friends, families, colleagues, business partners, etc. and here he is sending it to an SDR who prospected him, right? So I think if we just humanize the sales process a little bit more, finding something that the prospect is into, whether that's a book, whether that's a movie, whatever it is, and connecting with them on a personal level, we can open up a lot more doors and create a lot more relationships that way.
Dude, I love that story, man. That's definitely one for the books here. And it seemed like just your thought process on this, taking a more humanistic approach, has definitely paid off for you. You were able to move up to an enterprise SDR role in just 6 months, and now obviously an AE closing deals. I guess, like, how is this sort of mindset and like your ability to prospect and really humanize that sell really prepared you to now close deals?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually never really thought I was a great like salesperson. Like when I think of a salesperson, I'm thinking of like this smooth, like person that can just work a room. And I never really thought of myself as one. So for me, what I'm good at is trying to humanize the sales approach, right? So whenever I was an SDR, I always said if an AE had the ability to prospect like an SDR does, and they have the ability to close like an AE does, they're going to be they're going to be an absolute beast. Like they're going to be a top performer. And that was kind of that's what I believed in. I just always said like, hey, let's get the AEs prospecting like SDRs, and let's get the SDRs closing like AEs. And I think that's helped me a little bit. Just getting the first quarter of sales behind me as an AE, finished the quarter up pretty well. But I think, again, prospecting on my own, not relying on an SDR to prospect. And then also using that approach during the sales cycle. So for me, the amount of research I'll do for a outbound email, I'll do the same amount of research before a discovery call. So when I get on the call, I say, hey, I saw you like Gary Vee. Did you read Jab, Jab, right hook? And that's a conversation starter right there. So I think just doing a little bit of research every step of the process. Someone else from the team comes on the call now. You have a demo. They added 4 more stakeholders. Have their LinkedIns up. Look at their LinkedIns before a call. Use the same approach that you would do to send a personalized email during the sales cycle, right? One thing I've been doing in this remote world, I'm definitely an introvert, and I don't think I'm very good at small talking, but what I've done, and it's helping me a lot, is like right now, if I was looking at your profile, Mateo, and we were going to be on a call together, I would either take your university or maybe your podcast logo and put that as the background of my Zoom. And, it's a silly little thing, but it actually gets the conversation started. I got a lot of people that, they just open up, they start talking, they're smiling. Little stuff like that goes a long way. And I think that's what's helping me so far. Still very early on in my sales career. So I obviously have to develop those hard, sales skills. But I think this is helping me ease into conversations a bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're definitely just breaking down those barriers and showing them that you're just as human as they are, man. I love that, man. I guess for our viewers here who maybe aren't too familiar with demand-based and sort of what this idea of account-based marketing, ABM, is, do you mind just sharing a bit more about, I guess, that in detail?
Yeah, for sure. ABM in general, salespeople are pretty familiar with the idea of ABM. It's focusing on accounts, right? So in a marketer's standpoint, instead of advertising to a wide audience, they're going to now advertise to a set of accounts who are showing signals via intent or via engagement on their site. So where demand-based comes into play is we're identifying those behaviors throughout the web and allow marketers to take action on those via advertising or direct mails or even involving sales at that point. So that's kind of where ABM comes into play, and that's where demand-based kind of closes the gap on it.
Interesting, man. Do you sort of like leverage like marketing and sales? Like obviously the two have the same end goal, but like what are your thoughts on just the split between like sales and marketing, or using marketing as sales? Like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. They definitely have the same goals. Traditionally, I think they were very broken, right? Often operated separately, but I think nowadays, especially with ABM becoming more popular, you often see marketing and sales working really closely. You often see SDRs rolling up to marketing, right? I know a lot of, especially a lot of our customers that I've noticed, they have the BDR teams rolling up to marketing now, and then have the closers rolling up to the CRO, the revenue team. So it's really interesting how it's changing. BDRs are pretty much an extension of the marketing team because they're driving towards opportunity creation and pipeline. they're not actually closing business. They're helping close business as well, obviously, but it's pretty interesting to see how it's changing.
Mhm. Yeah, it's such a great take, man. I really appreciate it. Uh, I always just like to finish off the pod here, Vin, with like sort of a question. For anyone out there that's considering getting into tech sales or getting into an SDR role, regardless of their background, man. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I actually really like this topic. I can go on about this for a while. So I just think that a lot of people are not really too aware of the whole entire tech industry. I know it's more prevalent, I would say, on the West Coast. On the East Coast, at least, a lot of our schools don't really talk about it. Whenever I said I wanted to get into sales to my career services department, they automatically thought like insurance sales, real estate, those just traditional, like old school type of sale. And on the East Coast, finance is a lot more prevalent than tech. So I feel like it needs to start at that level. I like what like Bravado's doing and companies like that are trying to like educate more younger people about this opportunity. Like tech is an awesome opportunity to learn, be ahead of an industry, right? You never want to be behind and trying to catch up to something. Opens a lot of doors and allows you to wear a lot of different hats, right? Especially if you join a startup. Um, you're not just a salesperson. You could be helping with the content. You could be helping with marketing. You could be helping with recruitment. You could be wearing a lot of different hats and have a larger responsibility at a younger age. And I think that's just like the biggest thing. And especially being in tech sales, I just think it's a no-brainer. I try to encourage anybody who's interested in sales to at least look into tech sales because there's a lot of different type of sales. Um, but I think tech sales is just something else, honestly.
Dude, 100%, man. Couldn't agree with you more. Appreciate that, man. And I guess for anyone out there listening, would like to just reach you directly, learn a little bit more about your podcast, or at least, learn more about Demand Base, where can they find you?
LinkedIn, Vincent Matano, or on Twitter. I'm trying to be pretty active on there. I think it's Vincent Matano on Twitter too, or maybe Vin Matano. Either way, I try to post a lot on LinkedIn, maybe once a week. Not as much as Mateo, and Mateo's killing it. But yeah, definitely sharing some content there. Feel free to connect, and would love to bounce some ideas off each other.
Absolutely, Vin. Really appreciate you hopping on the pod today, man. Sales Dev Squad, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And please check out his LinkedIn. He's got a lot of amazing content and a little bit more info on his experience meeting Gary Vee. So you guys will definitely want to check that out. But we will catch you guys on the next one.
For sure. Thanks, Mateo.